Honestly, one of the best additions to Star Wars in years was Gina Carano's Cara Dune, who was...
No way! You like Gina... No way! No, nobody in your camp likes Gina Carano. That is shocking! I am shocked, dude. Just mind blown right now. Like, not only do you take shots at Kathleen Kennedy, you're gonna just, like, be like a fanboy over Gina Carano? Man, you are original. I've never encountered anyone that has these traits before. Just... hitting all those original boxes. Good job, man. Good job. So yeah, I saw you would post a request, so we will go ahead and do that one. Let me make sure chat's good to go.
What's up everyone, it's Endymion, and since Star Wars Celebration, there has been a disturbance in the balance of pop culture, where millions of fans groaned in unison as Disney and Lucasfilm announced that Rey would be brought back in a new movie. Some may have been hyped, while many others saw this announcement as Disney unwilling to learn from their past failures, as Hollywood keeps pushing what fans reject, and it begs the question.
Fans reject? All the Rey movies brought in a lot of money for them, so I don't know where you're getting fans rejecting it. And while I definitely have my issues with Rise of Skywalker, I wouldn't mind seeing the story of Rey building a new Jedi school. If they pull that off, I think that'd be cool. And god damn, they had to pay Daisy Ridley a lot of money to get back to this franchise, because I know she talked about being done with it.
Why does nobody seem to like these identity politically driven or woke characters?
How is Rey identity driven woke character? She's a woman. That's it. Like, what do these words even mean, man?
Let's talk about it. What rubs many the wrong way about Rey isn't that she's a woman, although I'm sure there are those out there who hate her simply for that, but I'm not one of them. The real reason why I particularly dislike the character and this announcement of her making a new Jedi Order is that Rey is essentially assuming the role that Luke should have had instead. Unfortunately, Disney made Luke into a bumbling hobo who drinks alien milk and tries to kill his nephew, and to really put the
he didn't try. Like, he's actually playing. This is the scene from Kylo Ren's point of view. And yeah, this isn't what happened. Luke lit the lightsaber, but he never went after him, you know?
nail in the coffin, they also killed off Luke as well. All the expanded universe lore surrounding...
And that's also very common in Star Wars. Each generation, you know, the old generation's there, but, you know, they die off, and that's kind of how they've set up their trilogies now.
Luke could now, in retrospect, not be used since the legacy of the character was finished. But the sad truth is that Lucas...
I mean, if they wanted to, they could always do stuff in between Last Jedi and Return of the Jedi. There's lots of room there.
Film and Disney found a way to remove Luke from the story and replace his legacy with a younger character instead. When it comes to a lot of new age media, there's been quite a few characters created that could be considered self-inserts of their creators. A good example of this is Mariko Tamaki, who's the author of the YA graphic novel I Am Not Starfire, where the beautiful supermodel Starfire has a fat daughter that looks more like the Penguin than being related to Starfire herself. Her daughter, whose name is Mandy, also looks strikingly similar to her creator, which many, as you'd expect, have pointed out. Then of course you have Velma.
I mean, they talk about self-insert characters, and it's like how much is it actually a self-insert? Just looking like them's not enough. Like, is it the same personality? If it's just based on their own personal experiences, then that's just writing. You base your writing on personal experiences as much as possible. Now, as far as Velma, pretty much everybody hates Velma, but got a second season because a certain anti-woke side of the spectrum wouldn't shut the fuck up about it.
And Mindy Kaling, which I don't need to explain. Of course, self-inserts are nothing new when it comes to media, as it's likely impossible for a creator to not in some way insert parts of themselves into the very characters they create. A good example of this would be Peter Parker, as Spider-Man looks a lot like one of his creators, Steve Ditko. But the difference between someone like Peter and Mandy is that Peter actually became something that stood the test of time and grew and expanded and built their own legacy.
Well, using that logic, I mean, you said he became... Well, so it took time. So it takes time for it to happen? Because logically, using your argument right there, the way to evolve someone like Rey into being her own character would be to give her more movies. So you're making an argument to give her more movies. Are you aware of what you're saying?
Where likely until I mentioned Mandy in this video, you probably haven't even thought of or knew that character even existed. To swing back to Star Wars again, Rey feels like a self-insert, but in the worst way possible.
Yes, this is, ENDYMIONtv? However, ENDYMIONtv, I don't know. He's kind of insufferable. He's definitely know-it-all.
In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if Rey was a self-insert of Star Wars' biggest villain herself, Kathleen Kennedy. A woman who's so hated by the fan base that even during Star Wars
Whoa, taking shots at Kathleen Kennedy? How original. How original, dude. Nobody's taken shots at Kathleen Kennedy yet. So brave. So brave. Just such a joke. Kathleen Kennedy, doesn't really touch the stories, really, as far as I know. She's a producer. It's kind of, she really just seems to just do the producing, and she leaves other people up to the stories. So the idea that Rey is Kathleen Kennedy is, I feel like that's kind of a stretch. But, sure.
Many didn't clap or woo her as she went on stage.
Lucasfilm, Kathleen Kennedy!
Because the damage she has done.
Well, how loud was it for other people? I need to compare it to see if they actually had proper audience mics. That doesn't tell me anything by itself.
To the brand and Disney at large at this point is stained by her diluted touch. Rey is a terrible self-insert character because she doesn't add nothing to the story she's in.
She doesn't add nothing to the story she's in. That is a double negative. So she adds something to the story she's in. Good. Excellent. Good job. So you're a Rey fan. You're already arguing that Rey should have more movies so she could evolve and become her own character. And you're also, saying she adds stuff to the movie she's in. So, excellent. Excellent.
She is simply Luke Skywalker, but a woman.
Is this like I'm pretending to be anti-woke, but I like Rey video? I mean, I know this guy. He's that's definitely not what he's doing, but it's almost becoming like that.
But without any of the problems or weaknesses. Instead, she's capable of doing anything and everything herself, even breaking out of prison in Force Awakens on her own, even though she's only known how to use the Force for maybe 5 minutes at this point.
Yeah, she just kind of stumbled into it. Is that a problem? I don't think that's a problem.
Rey is the ultimate bad.
Keep in mind, she fucked up the first couple times. Yeah.
Character because of this, and I honestly feel bad for Daisy Ridley because she's just doing what she's told by the writers, directors, and producers who employ her. There was something there in Awakens, a glimmer that she could have been a great character, but this potential was sadly wasted. And then it was exemplified when she was not only assuming the role that was originally Luke's, she also took his last name too. Rey and herself.
You do know she did that because she respected him, right? It wasn't just like, oh, I'm taking this name and fuck you guys, it's gonna be mine. No, it was out of respect. I was not thrilled with the Rey Skywalker thing, but it was literally done out of respect. It's a complete misread on your part there.
Self-inserted creator Kathleen Kennedy are the worst thing to happen to Star Wars since its creation. Many could argue that
the worst thing to happen to Star Wars since its creation.
Today, I'm going to be using the tenderest cut of the panther, the loin. The loin is very tasty and serves four nicely. Of course, if your family has a hearty appetite, I would suggest then that old popular holiday favorite, the panther rump.
Interesting. Proceed.
The reason why fans are so against Rey is because she's a new character and nobody wants new stuff, they just want what they liked before. But this is clearly not true since we have had plenty of characters made in the years before and since that disprove this. Starkiller, for example, was a character people really liked, and The Force Unleashed when it came out became the best-selling Star Wars game ever at the time, even outpacing KOTOR. Grogu is another great addition, and so is Din Djarin, but people clearly don't like when they're sold something as one thing, but get subverted into experiencing something that they don't want. The Mandalorian recently has largely replaced Din and Grogu with Bo-Katan, and even the producers of the show say anyone can now be the Mandalorian.
We've been on the journey of the show, and now that we're at this point, is that what does that title mean? And I think now with Bo possessing the dark saber, I know that there was a lot of expectations that might have shifted, both in terms of what it meant for Din Djarin, but also for Bo, and what does it mean? Who is the Mandalorian right at this point? And so I think it could be anyone, and I think that's what they're trying to define in many ways, is what does that mean to be Mandalorian?
We want our Space Dad and Goblin Son story, and even though the show was marketed as such, once you watch it, the duo are sidelined for other characters.
I mean, I do think there is a valid argument to say that Din Djarin did not have a substantial enough role in Season 3, and that he largely was just there. I do think that's a substantial criticism. That being said, Bo-Katan's story in Season 3 was actually really cool. I thought they did a great job with her. Katie Sackhoff is a solid actress, and she did a good job with it. So really, my complaint wouldn't be that, Bo, did too much. My complaint is I would want Din Djarin to do more. I thought Bo worked great.
It's not even that Bo is a bad character, it's just that no one is watching the show for her when we've been invested in Din and Grogu.
Yes, but it's okay to have good supporting characters too? What? If they're not the main character, they can't have story? What? What argument is this?
I can put this into an analogy for you. Switching out Bo for the duo is like going to a steakhouse and having the advertisements promoted as a place for barbecued beef. But when you enter, the menu actually has no steak on it, and instead everything is replaced with fish. And then you're being called an idiot or an anti-fish eater because you went to the steakhouse expecting steak. But now everyone who works there hates you because you don't want what they're selling, and that's how all of this feels. We wanted steak.
Using your analogy, the steak is still there. Din Djarin and Grogu are still in every single episode of this season. So, using your analogy, it would be you go to a steakhouse and you get a steak, and then you also get some fish. You get them both. That is what your analogy would work for The Mandalorian Season 3. You're still getting the steak. I mean, like I said, I wish they did more of Din Djarin, but Din Djarin was absolutely present there.
Steak and potatoes, but you're feeding us halibut and soy milk. The fan base has every right to be disappointed about this kind of stuff. It's not to say that you can't have good characters that are people of color or women, as one of my favorite characters of the past decade and then some is Agent 355 from Y: The Last Man. She's an incredibly badass special agent.
Oh, there's one I like. So therefore, it's good. So I'm allowed to hate the other ones because there's one I like. Is that the argument you're going for?
Whose sole purpose is to protect the last remaining man on Earth. Her determination and willingness to see her mission through is not only filled with comedy, but a horrible tragedy as well. 355 is an amazing character who's also black and a woman, and she's also believable and fits perfectly into the world of Y: The Last Man. Another character I really love is from a comic called Punk Rock Jesus, where a company revives Jesus through strands of DNA and makes a reality show out of the second coming of Christ for television ratings. This second Jesus is protected by a capable and deeply troubled man named Thomas McKeel. Thomas is a badass bodyguard whose nickname is the Cemetery because of all the crosses on his back.
I mean, cool, you like this stuff. Cool? What does this have to do with Mandalorian?
He has tattooed, signifying all the people he's killed. Punk Rock Jesus is also just a damn fine limited series.
And Mandalorian wasn't even the original topic. You start out talking about Rey having a new movie, and then you're on Mandalorian. Now you're on stuff. I mean, cool. You like this stuff. Cool. How does this stuff mean the Rey movie will be bad?
Series, and I strongly recommend it if you haven't read it. But the point stands that good original characters do still exist out there in the wider world, but unfortunately, when it comes to mainstream companies like Marvel, for example, they can't help but keep pushing these terrible woke ideas instead. A good example of this is Deadpool, who in a recent issue has begun dating Valentine Vuong, an assassin who was originally an enemy of Wade's. While this all may seem fine, the more I dug in, the more obvious and self-inserting it became. You see, it would be one thing to announce that Deadpool has a new girlfriend, except whenever you read an article about this, the selling point is that this new character is non-binary. And I had a creeping suspicion, so of course
Then don't read articles on it. Just read the comic book. Who cares what some article on it? And I have to wonder what this source is. What articles is this guy reading? Let's look into this. All right, so this is a CBR article. So kind of a chudish source. Not always, but not great. This is the same source. Yeah. I'm pretty sure it's the same source that did the Dungeons and Dragons emasculating men thing. So, not surprising, but, yeah.
Of course, I dived in deeper, and the writer of this Deadpool series is Alyssa Wong, who of course is also non-binary. Meaning this series is just a fanfic.
So, the writer can't make a non-binary character? Like, using this logic, you should be upset about Isom. Because Isom is a black character, and Eric July is black. So, using this exact same logic, you should be pissed about Isom. Something tells me you're not, though, but you should be.
Where the writer has self-inserted a non-binary Vietnamese character who is very specifically just like their creator and wrote it so that they can bang Deadpool. It's Tumblr levels of cringe, but this is how things are now. Thankfully, there has
being non-binary does not define your whole personality. It's just a trait. It's like, it would be like, I have size 11 shoes, and that defines my whole character. Like, what? It's just a trait. It doesn't mean anything.
Has been good characters that are also diverse, but unfortunately, I do wish there were more that were given proper respect and real characterization. Aya and Bayek from Assassin's Creed are some of my favorite characters in that franchise, and they are both not only diverse, but extremely integral to their franchise, and fans love them. Another miss by the modern comics industry was Jonathan Kent, who became the new Superman. Except his only defining characteristic wasn't his heroism, legacy, or villains, but simply that he was bisexual.
Did you read it? I would like to know, did you read that? Do you know that that was his only defining characteristic? Because to my understanding, didn't he do lots of protest stuff? Like I said, I haven't read it either, but I'm not judging it. Like, you seem to be judging it, and I'm not confident you read it.
And having the new Superman be bi did little in the long run with the series being cancelled because, like many of these woke characters, their identities are surface level at best. And I know some people will say that it's odd that I'm against gay Superman or self-insert non-binary Deadpool love interest, but I'm totally fine with Peter Parker looking like Steve Ditko. Why Peter Parker works where so many of these woke failures don't is because when it comes to characters like Spider-Man, he's so much more than just his sexuality or skin color.
I mean, have you read this stuff? Like, I doubt you've read the John Kent Superman stuff. I haven't, and I don't have any issue with him being bisexual or yeah. bisexual. I haven't read Deadpool and his non-binary would it be girlfriend? Non-binary relationship, I guess would be more accurate. I haven't read that, but I'm not judging it either. You're condemning it just because it's a non-binary character written by a non-binary writer, and it doesn't mean anything. It's a characteristic. So what?
Peter is a young man whose life gets changed by the spider bite. He loses his uncle because of his own hubris. And while he has the riz of a literal god, Peter also suffers immensely, but never lets it bring him down and inspires those around him. When I think of someone like Peter, I think of his characteristics as heroic, selfless, loving, and strong.
I have a feeling if I looked into John Kent and maybe even Deadpool's God, I don't know what it would be for non-binary. Deadpool's fuck buddy? I bet you they would have a bit more to him than just being non-binary and being bisexual. And yes, characters will grow and develop as more stuff is being written. So if your argument is that Spider-Man has like 50, 60? Yeah, Spider-Man's like 60 years old. Spider-Man has like 60 years of history. Okay, so your argument then is that we need more Ray movies. We need more comic books with Deadpool's love interest. We need more John Kent Superman stories to develop his character. Your argument is literally for more of that stuff, not less.
He's a character many people can see themselves in regardless of gender, skin color, or whatever else.
Yeah, love interest. I don't know why I didn't come up with love. That makes sense, yeah.
It's the same with Agent 355. I think of her as adaptive, strong-willed, and incredibly badass. Her being black or a woman doesn't matter because at her core, she's a strong character. But when I look at Jonathan Kent, the only quality he has is that he's bisexual.
Have you looked at him, though? I'm seriously curious, did you read that comic book run? Because if you didn't read that comic book run, then you're just judging it on articles, and you're not, you have no basis to actually judge it.
That's all any of these New Age characters are now. They are simply created for diversity checkpoints so websites will write articles about them.
These websites, like the websites you obviously look up, are gonna write articles about this shit anyway. There's no avoiding it.
But the reality is that these controversies usually never translate to true long-standing sales, and it proves that consumers want their
Mikey J says he didn't read it. Yeah, no, he's not talking like he read it. He's not coming up with any details at all. Like, how would you even write a character where their only defining characteristic is that they're bisexual? What? Do they just, like, all day, like, all their dialogue is talking about how they like to fuck people of all genders and they're not picky? Like, it's not a trait you could write a character around. It's just not.
Characters to be defined more besides what's in their pants or whose pants they want in. Speaking of Spider-Man, one of the newer characters added to the mythos is the alternate universe version of Miles Morales' sister. Her name is Bobby Morales and her superhero name is Spider Smasher. And she looks like a cheap knockoff of an Attack on Titan character with the overused half-shaved haircut. Then there's Spider-Boy, whose real name is Bailey and apparently has the exact same origin story as the Sentry, who's Marvel's version of Superman basically. They're not even trying anymore. However, if you...
What do you mean? And also, like, the Spider-Verse introduces tons of alternate reality characters. That's just kind of what the Spider-Verse does.
Want an example of a character that became a breakout success and is fairly recent, we can look at Dr. Aphra, who first appeared in the Darth Vader comic book series. Aphra is a morally ambiguous character that kills and manipulates people and is also a woman of color and meets all of those sexual identity nonsense things every company is so crazy about. But while Aphra does tick certain ideological boxes, she managed to have her own comic book series and became a character that shined even when put beside icons like Darth Vader. So it's not that people don't like new characters or those of color and so on. They just want well-written characters that are complex.
Yes, everybody wants that. That's not a bold take. The problem is, you and lots of people like you yell at any characters just because they're women or minorities, and you don't even give them a chance. Yes, everybody wants well-written characters. Nobody's arguing against well-written characters. The problem is, to get well-written characters that are women and minorities, you just simply have to, frankly, make more women there, or make more characters that are women and minorities. And not all of them will be hits. But I'm not even sure if you're properly judging them, because I doubt you're reading this stuff that you're complaining about.
I understand that writers want to diversify their characters, but it becomes increasingly agenda-driven and eye-rolling when almost every prominent character is gay. Look, I understand that gay people need...
Okay, what story are you talking about where every prominent character is gay? Like, maybe if there's a story where that's the focal point, but what, like a superhero story where every character is gay? Come on. What are you talking about? I need a source for that one.
Representation, but we went from a little bit of representation to the point where characters are being retconned into having their sexuality changed for pandering reasons. Why else would DC Comics suddenly say one of their Robins is gay, or John Kent? It's not being done in order to flesh the character out, it's simply written that way so places like CBR will write an article.
Yes, because CBR needs an excuse to write an article and stuff like that. CBR is like, oh man, we didn't want to write this article, but man, they made this, now we have to write this article. Ugh. They just twist CBR's arm, and now they had to write that. Come on, dude. Come on. They do it for the clicks.
And Twitter people...
It's all the outrage clicks. That's what the anti-fandom goes for, and CBR definitely dips their toes in that quite a bit.
People will virtually pat the creators on the back while not spending a dime supporting these ideas, only to complain that people hate gay.
The John Kent Superman #1 did extremely well, and I think it maintained a decent chart position throughout its entire run, and then they're rebooting it with a new title because #1s sell better. It's going to have the same creative team, so it's not, it's technically canceled, but it's a comic book thing.
Gay characters until they make more gay characters, and then they don't support those either, and the cycle of lunacy continues.
Yeah, except this stuff makes money, which is why they keep on doing it. You know that, right? Lots of Generation Z and even millennials, they appreciate inclusion and representation, so they're cool with it.
Honestly, one of the best additions to Star Wars in years was Gina Carano's Cara Dune, who was...
No way! You like Gina... No way! No, nobody in your camp likes Gina Carano. That is shocking! I am shocked, dude. Just mind blown right now. Like, not only do you take shots at Kathleen Kennedy, you're gonna just, be like a fanboy over Gina Carano? Man, you are original. I've never encountered anyone that has these traits before. Just hitting all those original boxes. Good job, man. Good job.
Supposed to get her own spin-off show. But the absurdity that Disney would cancel an actual strong female role model over politics is so very much the perfect encapsulation of our current world.
Well, there's a good chance. The thing I usually brought up was I think it was interesting. None of her co-workers stood up and said, hey, we don't like that she was fired for this. And personally, I'm not thrilled that she was fired over tweets, but I do think there's something behind the scenes we don't know. And it was also brought up, the fact that she is resistant to vaccines and masks probably made them hesitate to renew that contract when they don't want people on the set dying from COVID, which makes sense.
You can't just have a character be gay. They have to also align exactly how you want them when it comes to your politics and views as well. Having a strong female character isn't enough if that woman doesn't bend the knee or parrots all the...
Well, I think it's also worth noting, it's easy to say she was fired, but if you actually look into it, it's that her contract wasn't renewed. They're under no obligation to have to renew her contract. They don't have to, and they chose not to. That's it.
The talking points too. It's because of this very clear bias that many fans are disillusioned and tired of many things. The burnout of having the things we love being ruined or paraded for woke points is why I do what I do. There needs to be a middle ground where we can have representation, but it shouldn't come at the cost of deplatforming others. If fans are so against characters of
Gina Carano's got to deal with the Daily Wire, and she's making movies there that are financial bombs. So, good for her? It is noteworthy nobody wants to work with her except the Daily Wire. That is noteworthy.
Color, then why was everyone stoked when Ahmed Best played a Jedi Master in Mando? Why did no one complain or have an issue when Kang was announced to be played by Jonathan?
Actually, I did see people complain about Ahmed Best, and it was weird. I'm pretty sure I covered it on here, too. I don't remember exactly who, but there were people complaining about that. Essentially saying, oh my god, it's Jar Jar Binks. I think that might have been Knights of Melvin, actually. I guess he's not one of the bigger ones. He's one of the dumber ones, though. I'll give him that. And Jonathan Majors, I think it's interesting to drop him in there, since he's, we got issues with Jonathan Majors. We'll have to see how it shakes out once all the information comes out. But there might be issues there.
Majors. Or why did Creed 3 make over $250 million on a franchise that primarily started with a straight white man as its lead character?
Wow. You're arguing that Creed 3 made a lot of money because it started off starring a straight white man? I mean, dude, Rocky was instrumental to the Creed franchise, but it's worth noting Creed 3 was the first one not to have Sylvester Stallone. I'm trying to think. I think a couple of the other boxers were white, but for the most part, it had pretty much a black cast. And like you just said, it was financially successful. And it dealt a lot about growing up in a black neighborhood, the issues involved with that. It dealt with some issues that I'm certain you'd consider quite woke. So this argument that it was successful kind of blows up everything else you've been saying. Because, yeah, it was successful despite not having Rocky, despite dealing with racial issues. It was success.
The difference is that when it comes to characters like Creed, he doesn't replace Rocky, but instead respects and...
True. Sketchy got hands. Creed 3, I'm sure Michael B. Jordan does help a lot of women get by.
Honors the legacy. Creed, in a lot of ways, is the opposite of Rey. He forged his own place in that franchise and built a story that honors what came before without ruining the original movies. Rey is now...
How did the sequel trilogy ruin any of the prequels or the original trilogy? How? Those still exist. Did Disney buy Star Wars and then burn all copies of the original and prequel trilogy so people can't watch them and destroy them? How does it change any of that? What are you talking about? I love when they just say shit.
Now in the unfortunate, unique position to appropriate and transform all of Luke's expanded history and make it her own. That doesn't make Rey a good character. It makes her an imposter that didn't earn what she has. Ultimately, the reason why...
Yeah, if we're just gonna assert stuff, sure, whatever. I'm kind of, again, sick of your arguments, man. Yeah, essentially, your argument, if we really want to distill your argument is, these characters don't have a big history. So, alright, so the way you combat that is you give them more of a history. You give them more movies, you give them more comic books, whatever. You give them more stories, you build up their history, and then, you'll like them then, right?
People don't like woke characters is because they don't offer anything actually unique. They are simply checklists so modern creators can fail upwards into ruining more stuff they should have no part in. This is why The Acolyte so far has people on edge when one of their lead actors says things like Star Wars is very patriarchal.
Oh my god. I recognize the name. That is a Bounding into Comics article. Like, dude, just looking at your sources that you, like, apparently you're aware of these articles. So you see them and you post them up here as if they're legitimate fucking articles. No, this is not a legitimate source. I do not care at all what John F. Trent says, because John F. Trent, I've seen some of his articles. He's a fucking bigoted piece of shit. I don't give a shit. You know, if he's watching, dude, you're a piece of shit. Just fuck Bounding into Comics. They're atrocious garbage. You know what? Let's go ahead and dig up some of John Trent's articles. I want them to be on the stream here so we can see. You know, if he's ever watching, let's check. Let's make sure this is saved. All right, so here he is, author John F. Trent. No. My God, no wonder he's got a couple of these that are bad. He just writes an insane amount. Oh, he's the founder. This is the founder of fucking Bounding into Comics. Holy shit. Oh, well, here's the one. Acolyte actress Jodie Turner-Smith claims Star Wars is very like patriarchal. It kind of is. I mean, most of the movies star dudes. So I don't know. Let's see. I don't know if that's completely wrong. My character, you know, she's a powerful leader. She's a powerful leader in a very woman-centered world, which I was excited to kind of be in. That's because I feel like Star Wars is very patriarchal. And you're triggered by this? Like, okay. Now, one thing that slowed me down is that John Trent writes a lot for these guys, so, we're gonna have to try to narrow it down and show you some of the real, winners here. Here we go. This is one I personally really, oh, that's not helpful at all. No technical issues, guys. We're fine. Anyways, here's one that I think illustrates it nicely. Report: Lucasfilm cancels Disney Plus series Willow, series that was used to try to normalize sodomy. Just what I don't even know where to begin with that statement. Like, I mean, sodomy is almost always used to just mean gay relationships, but it's a lesbian relationship in that one too. It's atrocious. But anyways, I know there's another winner here. We will dig up that one. There you go. This is another big winner from them. CW's The Flash goes full groomer, pushes multiple objective lies, including trans is beautiful and protect trans kids. This is not a fucking news source. I'm sorry. This is propaganda. This is just complete fucking garbage. And clearly, this is somebody that ENDYMIONtv, and I don't really care if I'm pronouncing it correctly. In fact, I hope I'm pronouncing it incorrectly. Use as a valid news source. Just no. Fuck that. I do not care what Bounding Comics says ever. Shitting into diapers seems way more accurate.
Which makes you question if the actress in question, whose name is Jodie Turner-Smith, even knows what she's talking about. She goes on to say, quote, "My character, you know, she's a powerful leader. She's a powerful leader in a very woman-centered
Hey, I just wrote that.
world."
I read that.
which I was very excited to kind of be in that because I feel like Star Wars is very patriarchal. So it was kind of cool to have this sort of woman-centered figure, end quote. Also, it's really hard for me to say patriarchal. I can't say it. Moving on. Either Jodie Turner-Smith is blind or hasn't seen any of Star Wars in the last year. Since movies like Rogue One starred a woman, and there's an entire sequel trilogy where everyone kisses the toes of the female characters constantly.
Do you not know what patriarchy means? It means women leaders. Now, you could argue, like, you do have some. Leia and Padme, obviously big women leaders in Star Wars. But yeah, most leaders you see are typically men. Obviously, you had Bail. The Empire is obviously got a lot of men leaders with the Emperor, Darth Vader. But yeah, I mean, it's mostly going to be your leaders. It's not just women and...
If anything, Star Wars from a movie or TV sense in the last 10 years is anything but, oh god, patriarchal, I can't say it. If anything, Star Wars from a movie or TV sense in the last 10 years is anything but patriarchal. I think a more fitting word would be cucked, but what do I know? I only actually watch these things.
So if it's not patriarchal, it's cucked. Okay, cool. Good to know where you stand.
And make videos on the internet about.
Mon Mothma, yeah, that's a good example. Yeah, no, I'm thinking about it. It's like, maybe her take isn't all that great, because I think there are, at least in the forefront of the story, decent women characters, or decent women leaders, specifically. Star Wars seems like it's doing okay there. That being said, I don't object to more. You know, and I don't know, in the grand scheme of the universe, how many men to women leaders are. I'm sure there's more men, technically. But yeah.
About them. It does seem that the nonsense of today's world will not end anytime soon, but I have a creeping suspicion that the inevitable Episode 10 of Star Wars...
Yeah, Bo-Katan's an Argraze. Yeah, I don't think it's a great take from the actress, but I mean, she's an actress.
Wars will not do as well as Disney hopes. And these lazy self-inserts like Mandy, non-binary Deadpool love interest, or half-shaved haircut Spider-person.
Like I said, if you want to call these self-inserts, then you have to call Isam a self-insert as well, dude.
Person will have as much impact as the greats they so desperately cling on to. Because in the end, the ideology and color of someone is just that. It's skin deep. No one race or group is inherently evil or lesser simply due to the pigment of their skin, and each person should be judged based on their own character instead. But when your character's defining traits are their body fat index being high or what they're attracted to, it's no wonder these ideas are dead on arrival.
Like, I have a feeling you haven't read any of this stuff. I have a feeling you're just reading Bounding into Comics, or, I'm sorry, Shitting the Diapers, and, like, basing your opinion on that. That's what I get the sense of.
So reject the modern nonsense of today and embrace real, actual well-written media. Go read Punk Rock Jesus or The Legend of Luther Strode. Play games with fun characters like in Resident Evil 4 and enjoy movies where the people involved actually care about the legacy they're building on.
Oh, wow, you're gonna praise Top Gun Maverick? Woo! You're so original, man. You're so original.
The reason why nobody likes woke characters is because they are not written as people first, but as checklists for idiots who only see people for their skin color or sexual identity.
Name a character that's written that way. I mean, you could probably name a couple, but that's not the norm whatsoever.
And in the words of Master Yoda himself,
"That is why you fail."
He is dumb. He is dumb. I feel like that whole thing was just an argument, and he didn't even realize it. Essentially, his argument was, these guys need more movies and media to expand on their story to make them fully fledged characters. And cool. Like, I guess you're for that Rey movie then. Why not? These guys are dumb.
books, records, films, these things matter. Call me shallow. It's the fucking truth.